Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Welcome, everyone. What an exciting day. My name is Paulina Lopez, and I am the executive director of the Duwamish River Cleanup Coalition, which is a local environmental justice nonprofit here serving the Duwamish Valley, South Park, and Georgetown for the past 20 years. It's very, very exciting day today. And as many of us have been talking here prior, a result of a lot of community work, community visioning, and collaboration with our city partners. So we're very grateful to be celebrating with you all and to be actually moving into the next step. The first one today we are celebrating is the land acquisition, which is something that community has prioritized as we are talking about the Duwamish Valley that for years have been seen as a neglected community with many environmental justice needs. So it is an honor for me to be here celebrating with you this first huge step as I think of the past 3 years of community activism, of working with community leaders in here, but also, thinking outside of the box, thinking in a bold way, how can this be happening to address this high priority that we have here of keeping our families, our children, our communities rooted in this neighborhood and rooted into, even though the past has been burdening to all of us who live here with environmental injustices, that investments are coming, how are we now moving forward into being strategic and being truthful to keep our communities here? So I want to thank you all community who has been showing up to the meetings, community who have been working hard, the Duwamish Valley Affordable Housing Coalition, my organization that has been helping staff this coalition, but most importantly to the leadership and friends that we have to make this happen. I want to acknowledge, too, that we are in the territories of the Duwamish land, and so we want to keep on these promises to keep on stewarding the land and the waters of our communities and honor with pride our history. It is a pleasure to me to welcome to Mayor Durkan, Jenny Durkan. Thank you for being here one more time into our neighborhood and for showing up every time that we ask you to be here, but also to showing on the delivering of this huge success. It has taken, as I said, many thinking brains and actions and looking into this, but thank you to your leadership and your Office of Housing, to Emily, who's here with us, Jessica, Alberto, to make this happen. And so I want to make sure that you know how appreciative we are that you're doing this, and that you're delivering into what you promised me one day in a park, and this is happening today. So thank you for being here. Welcome to our beautiful library, Mayor Durkan.
Paulina, thank you so much for that, and thank you, youth, for being here. And listen to Paulina, Carmen, and your elders when they tell you what you do matters. Because as Paulina said, one of my first trips to South Park, we were walking in a park, and she said, we need affordable housing, and we know just where we can do it. And then working with our Office of Housing, we're able to make this day come true. I want to thank everyone for being here today and for taking this next step and really what is a community envisioned and community-led solution to a true community need. I want to thank South Park Library for having us here today. And for letting me speak loudly in a library. I know that members of the community are thrilled that the locations will be opening this week will be 22 out of 27 in operation after the pandemic. This has been an extraordinarily hard 17 months in our city. But some neighborhoods and some communities have been hit harder. Both the health consequences of COVID and the economic consequences hit our communities of color harder, particularly our Latinx community. Often those were the people who are frontline workers, and because they showed up every day, the rest of us could get through. So I want to thank all of those essential workers who lived in South Park and other places for what they've done for us, that we could get through this pandemic together. I also want to say that now that we are through it, it is time for us to make true on our promises of equity and justice. One of the most important things that happened last year after the death of George Floyd and the murder of George Floyd was community rose up and demanded changes. And you are starting to see some of those changes today. I also want to thank PAULINA Lopez for another role that she did, which is after that I formed an Equitable Community Initiative Task Force that had the work to take $30 million and turn it into the start of really dismantling systemic racism and all that's done to hold people back. They came back with, after hours and hours, collectively hundreds of hours of work, grilling department directors, and together came up with proposals that we were able to send yesterday to the City Council to get that money back into community work. So PAULINA, thank you for that work too. And I think she's cloned because she also co-chaired my community task force on the West Seattle Bridge, which was just another little problem we had last year. But it was her commitment, but also the Duwamish Valley Affordable Housing Coalition's commitment to this community to make sure that we did what we could to stop the flow of displacement. We've seen how expensive the city has come and people getting forced out from where their families and homes lived. Having this affordable housing is one of the steps we have to take to stop that. That's why I'm so thrilled to sign this legislation today. And to work together with an executive order I was able to sign as mayor that is an anti-displacement order that gives members of the community first shot at living in the affordable housing that we build in their communities so that we actually can keep families in place. We have this shared vision of justice and equity in our city, and it's so important for us to make it real. And this is one of the steps today that we can make it real. But I want to acknowledge that this doesn't happen unless community acts and speaks and works. I, as mayor, and all the city departments who worked for this, the Office of Housing who did great work, I'm thankful to them, but we stand on the shoulders of community. We are answering the call of community and listening to the voices of community. And I think with that, we're showing that we can make a difference. There is a place in Seattle for everyone. It's so important to have affordable housing. Without it, you can't have healthy families or individuals, healthy communities. All of that depends on that. So I want to thank so much South Park for the work they've done. I do have to say to my Office of Sustainability and Environment, OPCD, which is the Office of Planning, Community Development, Parks and Recreation, Public Utilities, Department of Transportation, and the Office of Housing, they all heard this call too. And they came together for this housing, but also to help in the imagination that is South Park on the other things you want for your business district, for your families, for your communities. And it's just been such an honor for me to be mayor over this period of time and to see how South Park has not just fought through these crises, every single time you've made it better. And that's a tribute to your work and to your strong values. Signing this legislation is going to be a really important step for helping the impacted communities like South Park. I look forward to seeing this development take shape as it continues to evolve and grow. I look more forward to seeing when there's families in this housing and they're part of this community. Their kids are coming to this library. They're going to the taco stand. They have a small business here. Or maybe they're running one of the big tech companies. And one of you guys, you're going to be mayor someday. So now I have the very distinct honor to hand it off to Robin, who is a member of the Duwamish Valley Affordable Housing Coalition, one of the key organizations that advocated for this, and let me as mayor have the great honor to be here today to sign that legislation. Should I sign first and then Robin speaks? All right, I'm going to sign the legislation, we'll make it law, and then Robin can talk. So you guys come on up too.
Be with us. No, Mayor Durkan.
That's right. I know.
They had to borrow a library
pen.
Oh, we don't have our pens to give them.
Official pen.
I promised to bring official pens. I will make a special.
Official, right? Carmen.
I will make a special trip.
Get in there, Bill.
We're using this pen so we can get another unit of housing.
There you go. I like that. At least a couple.
All right, is law, and we will begin. Fantastic. Thank you.
Hey, can I get a quick shot of all of you looking at here with the mayor and saying a big
It's saying land,
Housing.
land and housing.
Yay.
Affordable housing.
Thank you so much.
South Park.
South Park.
All right.
I also want to note the mask that Mayor Durkan is using was designed by one of our youth.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Okay. My name is Robin Schwartz. Thank you, Mayor Durkan. On behalf of the Duwamish Valley Affordable Housing Coalition, this is super exciting. I also work at DRCC with PAULINA. I represent DRCC on the Housing Coalition as well as the Concord PTA. I want to thank all our partners, Via Comunitaria, OSE, OPCD, Office of Housing, the Mayor's Office, the City Council, all the members of the Housing Coalition and community members who have given their opinions. As Paulina mentioned, South Park has quite a long history with a lot of systemic injustices and challenges. We also have a really beautiful and resilient and thriving community. Historically, we've been a community of immigrants and refugees and low-income folks that are also primarily people of color. And this community has advocated for many, many years, worked with very little resources to advocate for what is just and what we should have as members of this city. And the last few years, as and everywhere, housing prices have risen and displacement has become an issue. It's also been a time of much more attention and investment by the city and other folks like the county and the port, which is great. But those of us who have lived here for a while and those of us who are low income or renters or those who are part of our community have seen that each step forward almost feels like a step back because our neighbors and our friends are being displaced from this community rapidly. My heart is really with Concord PTA. That's why I joined the Housing Coalition, and we're losing, sometimes 10, 20 kids a year, and that can equal a classroom of kids in a small school. My oldest child is in 7th grade, and I can count probably on one hand the number of her classmates that she began with in kindergarten that are still living in South Park. It's not a fair thing. It's unjust. It's also just really, really painful to see folks who have built this community, made it a place where we're all together, who have built this community, and they can't enjoy what is happening now. We have really amazing, committed service members and public servants, the library, the school, the community center, Carmen, obviously, who take care of our kids and our families. And you see one kid and then you see their siblings and their cousins, and that's really important to anybody, but especially to folks living here who have all these challenges that we talked about. So, bringing it around, this investment by the city and the mayor and the city council and all the departments is going to be life-changing. It's going to be life-changing to the life of this community. Our families and our friends and our neighbors are, if they're not going to be able to stay here, we're going to make sure to make a list and a policy of right to return and community preference and get them here and make it a place that is fair and equitable and a home for everyone in this city and not just folks that are making a lot of money. So we just want to thank you so much. We're really happy with this. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Hi, I'm Emily Alvarado. I'm the director of the city's Office of Housing. I'm really excited to be here today because we are securing 2 parcels in the heart of South Park that will become approximately 100 quality family rental affordable apartments. It's really exciting. And I want to echo the mayor's gratitude towards Paulina and Robin and Maria and the leaders of South Park who really made this happen. And I also want to acknowledge that Mayor Durkan has been a champion for this acquisition. So thank you. Today, we're actually celebrating the first time that the Office of Housing is directly purchasing land off of the market to build affordable apartments, creating a new sustainable building that will serve South Park families for generations to come. But this acquisition is part of a broader strategy. It's a strategy to ensure that we make investments in new parks, in environmental cleanup, in infrastructure, in climate resilience, and we ensure that long-term residents can benefit from those investments, not be displaced because of them. We can achieve both environmental justice and housing justice. We acquired these sites because of community advocacy, as you've heard, but this advocacy extends well beyond South Park. We're hearing from communities of color who are impacted by displacement across the city, and they're eager to secure land now for future community use, to preserve belonging in the face of high housing costs. And this acquisition is a model for how the city can steward land with community. I'll be the first to acknowledge, though, that one building is not enough. It is not enough. But last year, we were proud to make an investment in 13 permanently affordable two-bedroom cottages on Donovan Street, built by Habitat for Humanity, that will welcome first-time homebuyers later this year. If you want to learn more about that, please contact me. We're still looking for homebuyers to come live in South Park, long-standing residents to stay here. And earlier this year, in response to the housing instability caused by COVID, we awarded $6.2 million to 17 community-based organizations who will distribute rental assistance in their communities, and that includes an investment in Via Comunitaria here in South Park, and we will do more. This acquisition wouldn't have been possible without the dedicated work of city employees. I want to acknowledge Jessica Gomez and Elsa Kings from the Office of Housing, Alberto Rodriguez, who has stewarded this work entirely, and I'm proud to help shepherd your work. We celebrate today, but there's a lot more work ahead. So we intend to do a lot more community engagement and outreach and get your input to design the RFP that will help select a developer, owner, and operator and builder of this building to make sure that we follow up on our promise to have this be community-driven housing. Thank you again.
Thank you, Emily. And I have to say to the Office of Housing, particularly under Emily's leadership, you know, I would come to her and say, okay, we have to do X. And she'd look at me and think, okay, we've never done that before. And so when we came back from Starfield, I said, look, we've got parcels there. And she went to work, she worked with the city and said, for the first time ever, we'll purchase it ourselves to make it happen. So Emily, you continue to be a leader. Thank you. And all the people who work with her are amazing. And the connectivity with community. So again, I just want to thank community for their work here. And one thing that Emily said that struck me, said, you know, you can have both environmental justice and housing justice. And we've talked about it, you really can't have one without the other. You have to have both. And so having this sustainable vision is so important, and it's why the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps is so important. It's why all of that ties together. So I'm just honored to be here and honored to share this vision, and would happy to take any questions. Everyone's just blown away and thinks it's amazing. All right. Thank you, everybody.